Hello everybody on YouTube, this is the Deputy, wishing you a very happy 2015, and thank you for the feedback, such as it is, from the first Inside TV Guide video, and now here is the second, and since we just went through a new year, I thought it'd be good to go through a new year again. This is 1975, going into 1976, December 27th to January 2nd, and it's Robert Blake on the cover with Fred the Cockatoo. And Baretta, big time hit at this point on ABC, primetime top 10 show. But really, the point of the cover is the cover story, which is purely about Fred. And almost all pictures. It's a very small story, and I don't know if it was around the holidays and they were thinking, oh, let's do something light and quick and easy, I don't know. But a lot of action shots of Fred, who, according to this article, getting a lot of fan mail, very popular around the set, as I guess any animal would be on a show. You can go back in time to, I don't know, Lassie all the way through to the dog on Frasier and so on and so forth. So, really just kind of a picture piece for Fred the Cockatoo, but he and Robert get the cover. The big article, besides that cover story, is PBS Under Fire. This is the third part, and it's more about fixing the problems with it. Under Fire isn't necessarily anything against it monetarily, it's what it needs to do to be fixed. It is written by Ben Stein, who you know from his game shows, possibly from Nixon's speechwriter, his acting. He's had quite a career. But Ben wrote this article, and he says the issue isn't so much funding, but the main problems with PBS are the public affairs, which are biased, and the lack of viewership in the public affairs programming therein. There's no attack on any other kind of programming that I could see, at least in terms of PBS, or at least that he had a problem with. It was the bias liberally that he saw and the lack of viewership that those programs had. In all his interviews, he also stated that there was no plot or conspiracy to have that viewpoint, simply just a prevailing output of liberal programming. So he thinks that PBS at that time needs to extend their reach beyond the core stations in DC and New York and draw on some of the other public stations. Remembering, just to put this in context and going to 76, that PBS as it was had not really been around that long, just expanding from NET, and a lot of those PBS stations across the country, which he's speaking, were on UHF stations. And if you don't know what UHF is, I don't want to make this any more educational or analytical. I want this to be fun, but just, it's back in the day, lower signal. Just trust me, it wasn't a good placement. So the points he's making are interesting. I think he'd be happier if there was more of a conservative viewpoint. It probably would have ended there. But he thought the issue was public affairs and a low quality of it. And I think PBS itself knew that if it was going to continue to get federal funding at the level it wanted, and in this article he's mentioning it wants it more on a contract basis as opposed to a year-to-year in the budget, that it would have to beef up its expansion across the country, and the other stations would have to pull their weight in terms of public relations programming. They seem to do children's programming and general programming very well, and they continue to do so. Continuing on the news theme, another relatively longer article in this TV guide is of Hughes Rudd, who at the time was at CBS News. More of a kind of a career covering and day in the life combination of this article. Hughes is soloing the CBS Morning News, which always seems to go through changes every few years. Hughes is pretty much avuncular. That's the only way that I can describe it. I know there are some clips of that first CBS Morning News that he did. He was there for a while. I know that he ended his career, I believe, at ABC. But just look at that picture. Look at the guy. Old, scrabbly, old news guy. Very witty. The kind of guy that looked like he's been up all night when he's delivering the morning news. But the kind of character we just don't really see much anymore on television. Certainly in the news as well. So that seems to be the vibe for TV Guide going into 76. They know it's going to be a big year, bicentennial, and news coverage, and the coverage they're in seems to be in their head, whether it's on network or on PBS. This copy of TV Guide comes from the Philadelphia market, and the CBS affiliate Channel 10 saying we're running Zorba the Greek tonight after the late local news, 11:30 p.m., award-winning theater. No commercials. I'd be very interested if anybody who sees this is from Philly, if they know if this happened a lot or often. Was it just award theater? But maybe it's just an end-of-the-year Christmas treat, no commercials, Zorba the Greek, and a late-night showing. Maybe they felt the hit wouldn't be too bad if it's after midnight. Hard-selling time for that anyway, but very interesting to see such a big market do such a thing. Even the time of year. And starting 76 off, in fact, just actually starting right before that, was The Neighbors, a new game show with Regis Philbin on ABC. It's a big day on ABC, and a very interesting way to schedule this. For those of you game show fans, you take a look at this. So you've got Let's Make a Deal, 1 hour, All My Children, 1 day only, then Rhyme or Reason, then this new game show. What I don't think they realized, or would have never known, because the weight behind this was The Neighbors, and in essence, easiest way I can explain The Neighbors is if you took the Newlywed Game and kind of made it more gossipy, and it was with the neighbors, and I hate to dilute it that way, but that's in essence what it is, and there is an episode on YouTube out there. The expansion of, for 1 day only, All My Children, for an hour. This is starting 1976, but a little over a year later, All My Children would be 1 hour permanently. So, even though this might have been a one-time thing, the performance of it, and it's pretty close to its usual time period, had to have made ABC executives stand up. Needless to say, The Neighbors did not make it to the summer months. Let's take a look at the clip, see what you think. Regis, obviously an engaging host, engaging presence. And to continue the game theme, currently at the same time, on Channel 6 here, you've got reruns of Ironside, and Truth or Consequences reruns as well. By this point, the show was finished with Bob Barker, who was, of course, on The Price is Right, and was doing both shows at the same time, but by this point, 75-76 season, and actually this time of the year, it was done. The show would return, Truth or Consequences itself would return. I believe that was Bob Hilton that came back with it in syndication. But Bob's days, of course, for a long time, he was done by this point. But, of course, we're getting into the New Year's, and at this point on CBS, the annual tradition, he was still around at this point, Guy Lombardo, the annual Auld Lang Syne, Royal Canadians from the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. They then go to Times Square. That was the classic thing, and that's what Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve was to go against. At that time, it's going into 76, Dick was in Times Square, but it was Neil Sedaka that was hosting it. So it was just New Year's Rockin' Eve. He was associated, though not completely, and I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking demographically this would tend to skew toward the older, and I know CBS tried it for a while after Guy passed away. Was never really the same. They've kind of been all over the map about stuff since. Some great clips on YouTube elsewhere about New Year's Eve countdowns for those of you that are interested in finding those out. But at this point, into 76, Guy Lombardo is still doing it. Which means, also, then the next day is New Year's Day, and back then, all the big bowl games and all the close-ups in TV Guide this month were just this. Rosters, not anything necessarily about the game. I'd totally forgotten about this, that TV Guide did this, that this was going to be your handy reference for watching the game just in case the referee didn't call something on a penalty or the announcer didn't call something on a play. But it did it for all the major bowls, the Rose, Sugar, Cotton, as you see here, Georgia against Arkansas, Orange, and really kind of baffled me. I thought one of these games would get an actual full-blown description. That's not to be the case. But that is TV going into 76. They know it's going to be a big news year. But for this week, let's watch some football. Let's have some drinks. Let's celebrate the new year. And why not? So let's take a look at the ads. And I just want to say, I'm not showing these, but yowzers, a lot of cigarette ads in this one. And almost all of them for brands I never see anybody smoke. True, Lark, Carlton, Virginia Slims, Doral. Any of you smoke those? Say something in the comments, fight for them. But man, oh man, almost all these ads in the TV Guide at this point were cigarette ads, and I'm assuming the cigarette company's trying to still make up the ad revenue they don't have from television. But it wasn't out of the ordinary for a big Christmas production. The Christmas Gift for You, this one from Universal, The Hindenburg. 2 years in the making, a cost of $15 million. Good lord. This was the trend of the time, disaster-type movies that you see with a giant cast. Reviews I've heard, or that I've seen, not that great. Did not perform that well at the box office. Just to give a comparison's sake, I know Walt Disney at the time had Island at the Top of the World, so there was still a big, fantastic Christmas gift type mood that the studios would be in toward this time. But as much as every studio was going for that big Christmas family stunner, it was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at this time that was the #1 movie that had started that way in the late fall and dragged its way all the way into the following year, 1976. TV Guide could always be counted on some very interesting advertisements for products that you wouldn't normally find in stores, such as the Revelation Crystal. As your mood changes, so does the crystal. Translate your feelings into a rainbow of colors. Be sure to clip out that scale. And it's a mood ring, it's a ladies' ring, it's a necklace, whichever you want. Any three of them for $12. Can you afford to pass up a deal like this? I don't think so, because supplies are limited. Brought to you by the Cracker Barrel. Oddly enough, that looks like the Cracker Barrel cheese font from Kraft, but nor the restaurant for that matter, but they're in Philly. You name it. Ring, neck piece, gold tone, silver tone. Men or women, doesn't matter. It's an amazing piece of space-age science. I think any kind of space-age science is something you can find in TV Guide that costs $5. And we have to end on this. Are you tired of sandpapering your face, ladies? Well, let me send you a free Baby Touch mitten. Yes, it removes facial hair. Safe, quick, easy. Millions sold since 1933. Technology be damned. You're also sending this to Dorothy Garfield herself. Nobody else. Be sure to mention Dorothy. Mail it to Dorothy. She's got a giant box of them in her apartment in San Francisco, I guess. But she's sending it to you for free. Oh, wait a minute. Plus 25 cents for postage and handling. So toss a quarter in the envelope and it's yours. I don't know whether to be stunned, but I mean, as you can see, that the scan was off kilter, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this thing. I guess it's just a good-natured, friendly thing. Man helping man, woman helping woman. We miss those days around here, and bicentennial fever was about to catch hold of this country. Do it with a hairless body. Certainly a hairless face. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look into TV Guide going into 76. Like I said, plenty more TV Guides where this comes from. If you have any requests or anything like that, please let me know too, through the years or certain topics, and we'll go for it. This is Deputy. Thank you very much. Have a great 15, everybody.